about 2 years ago, created a statute that allows the Department of Community and Economic Development, DECD, to designate cultural districts in towns in the state, which will then, if they're designated that way, and there's a lot involved in getting designated, then you can get grant money. The state tourism office will support you and promote your events and everything. So it's a really good thing for the town and for the arts community. So, so what this statute ordinance is trying to do is establish a commission that will, get that going, because it's going to be, you have to get kind of the support of the town, elected members, arts people, everybody to show the state that there's enthusiasm for it. So there's some work involved. And then also it would then be the cultural district commission if it's approved. And that cultural district commission has to have the 6 members that are listed here. They have to have at least those 6 people. So this would convert to that if we're approved as a cultural district. So that's the goal of it. And I don't know what if.
Do we want to go through the document? I could share it on screen. Do we want to go through it?
I have a few changes that resulting from talking again to Jim Baldwin and thinking it through, because it's tricky because it's not initially cultural district commission. I've been struggling with the fact that we have to have these specific people, which is, you know, a very specific kind of membership. But Jim said pretty much we agreed we can't change it midstream. We can't assign Fairfield electors to a commission and then say, okay, now we're a cultural district, you're all fired. We have to do a new membership. So, so yeah, I can walk you through this generally if you want.
Sure.
The first is
if I have, because I had a couple of ideas. Should I just raise my hand when we get to that point, or?
Yeah, that sounds good. Is that okay?
Yeah. Yeah, that's fine. Just actually, I can't see everybody right now, so just go ahead and, you know,
jump in.
Okay.
Karen or Josh, was Jim Baldwin going to jump in on this meeting so that he could comment on any of our suggestions beyond what he already did? Do you know?
I didn't invite him. He might be that he could if you want him to.
I spoke to him this morning and he wasn't planning on showing up unless anyone specifically requested him to be here.
Okay.
So we could see what the changes may be, and then if we want to call him, we can. I know he was available like 10 minutes ago.
Yeah.
So the purpose is kind of a general purpose statement, but to say that we want to develop a cultural district, and if that doesn't happen, that this would still be an arts commission to promote the arts in the town. The next section is about membership. Because of the requirements of the DECD, if it does become a cultural district, you'll see that some of those required people don't have to live in town. So they don't have to be electors of Fairfield. So so a couple of things with this section. One is that since 6 people have to be part of those categories, Jim was suggesting, and I think this is a good idea, to maybe make the number 9 of the commission, because then 3 people can be general Fairfield citizens or whoever. Drew, what's up? I see your hand.
Well, I just had two things. First, and this might change depending on how many people are on the commission, but 4 members of whom shall be registered with the same, no more than 4 of whom shall be registered with the same political party. If it's 7, I think that's a little outdated. About 40% of Fairfield are unaffiliated voters. So I'd like to change that, if it's not too late, to 3, because then you could have, 3 Republicans, 2 unaffiliated and 2 Democrats or something like that. But if you have 4, then there are only 3 left to be, and that I feel like commissions have not been incorporating unaffiliated voters. So I said voter registration affiliation versus political party. So that's one
Mhm.
thought. And then I wanted to define artist because it says at least one artist that lives in our, so I'm not sure if that's too general or we want it to be general. And I wanted to
Well,
see
you
if
know
we
what?
could
Can
add.
we take these one? Let's talk
Yeah.
about them as we go.
Okay, sure. Yeah, so let's talk about why it needs to be specified to a political party or just a voter registration affiliation, because then we could have unaffiliated included in the Democrats and the Republicans.
Well, I guess I have two thoughts. One is that all the commissions say this, and I don't know offhand if this is a statutory requirement. I think it is a statutory requirement. I should know that, but I don't. But the other is if you have, say you only have
Well, statutory requirement that it has to be 4?
It doesn't
No,
say
no.
it has to be 4. It says no more than 4.
Right. And the problem is if you have, say, so and we still have to go back to the question of 7 versus 9, among other things in this section. But if it's 9, say you do no more than 3, and that would leave room for other parties. But if we can't find other parties to do it, because the reality is the parties are the active people who supply members, then you may not have enough members.
I don't agree with that, Karen. I think if unaffiliated people knew they, especially in an arts council, and just because we've done it in the past doesn't mean we can't change the language going forward.
Could I just jump in? Like,
Yeah.
so the way, aside from the 7 or 9 question, let's set that aside for now. The minority representation rule, all it's saying is you can't have more than 4 from a party. It's not saying you have to have 4. It's not saying you can't have unaffiliated. It's
I
saying
know it says political party, and unaffiliated is not
Yes.
political party.
So you can't have
Right.
more than 4 Democrats. You can't have more than 4 Republicans. That's all it's saying.
Right.
So you could have 4 unaffiliated, or you could have 4
They're
Republicans.
not a political
3
party. Yeah.
But,
Right.
so
I
it's
just feel like if the first select person is of a party, you know, I don't know. I just was trying to make room for unaffiliated voters.
but that's what this does.
I think
Right.
That's what this does. It makes room for either members of a different party or unaffiliated to fill the seats beyond the majority party, right? So if we have a Republican first select person, and they put and the number is 4, which I think is still in question depending on the size. But if it's 4, only a maximum of 4 of Republican, or in the other case Democrat, would be able to be on this, leaving room for the other
No, I
parties.
understand that, but that leaves 3, and then you have 2 and 1 versus 4. I wanted to reduce it to 3.
But if you reduce it, then you're required to go out and get unaffiliated.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Which may be hard to do. I agree totally with you. I think there should be more unaffiliated, other parties.
Yeah, this should not be a
creeds,
political
et cetera.
commission or
Couldn't
council.
say, well, then
Any
let's
way,
just
shape, or
change
form.
political party, not the number. Same,
This is
I
a
don't know, can we
state,
say voter registration affiliation instead of political party?
this is a state requirement, I believe, that to have minority representation on commissions. So you have to say this. I think it would be 5. If we have 9, I think it would have to be 5 instead of 4.
Correct.
So it's not meant to discourage, is that, like Josh said, it's meant to encourage having other party members.
I know, I just think the language, we need to be more inclusive, but if that's not allowable, then that's not allowable, so that's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I think this is standard sort of stock language to say that, there's not
It's
going to
old
be
fashioned though, right, Jeff? It's a little like,
overwhelming number of people from one party, which it shouldn't be.
no, I understand. I just
Yeah.
feel like 20 years ago, it made more sense than it does now with so many unaffiliated voters in Fairfield, but.
Yeah, I mean, it's the way every commission and body is
I
in
know.
town, but
I know.
if we're going through a charter revision, we could do it then. Or
There you go.
we missed
Sort
the
of
boat
a
on that.
deeper, it's a deeper issue of just encouraging throughout town to have a diversity on every commission, right? It's really more practice where we have to
Yeah.
make that change, I think.
Yeah,
Karen,
and this doesn't exclude unaffiliated at all. So
I agree. I
Did we
just was
say,
hoping to
Karen,
change the language.
I know we talked about the word residents versus electors. Just remind me
Yes.
again, what was the decision that it has
It
to be
is supposed to
electors?
be electors, and I don't know why. I think I missed this word or didn't change it, so it should
Yeah.
be. But the problem is that we can't say that if it's a cultural district, because the language of these, Drew, I know you wanted artists defined, but this is the exact language from the DECD rules about. So I think we
Okay.
have to just copy it. And they say it can be someone who just works in town. So
So what's an elector versus a resident, first of all?
Elector is just a registered voter.
Registered resident, okay.
Yeah.
And
A registered voter. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
who also is a resident, right?
Well, yeah.
you have to be a
that's right.
A
resident
Fairfield elector, right? A Fairfield elector.
because you could
Correct.
be a resident but not registered to vote.
Right.
So,
Because otherwise the sentence doesn't, it's saying two different things. It's saying Fairfield resident and then someone who's, registered as a political party. But then they'll think, wait a minute, I have to be a resident or I have to be associated with a
Yeah.
political party.
no, it should have been changed to electors, and I
Okay.
remember, yeah. So,
So let me just, can I just follow up? So the six things.
No, wait 1 second, Drew,
Oh,
because I
okay,
wanted to
sorry.
stay on this exact language we're talking about. So, I think it should be nine members. And then we have to list these 6 and then maybe say the other 3 members shall be Fairfield electors. Is that okay?
Okay. You want to increase it just to bring in more people, Karen, right?
Yeah, that's what
And
Jim
to
and I
ins-
were both thinking.
Fine.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, we were both thinking that would be good, and it also, honestly, for the beginning part of it, I think we're going to need worker bees, people who are
Sure.
really willing to get this going. So,
And I think you said, Karen, that this also is a way to make sure we get some Fairfield people on here too, because the others do
Yes.
not have to be Fairfield people, right?
exactly, yeah. And I imagine the Board of Selectmen will try to make them
Yeah.
Fairfield electors, but I'm sorry, Drew, go ahead. I just wanted to do that one.
No, and that, so you can tell me if this language is provided by the state, because, with the membership, I wanted to sort of add in, for-profit creative businesses, photographers, decorators, designers, there's just, I don't know if it's limited to that, but I wanted to broaden it. There are a lot of very talented artistic people here. And so, or memberships, like, I was an art history major, but I'm not in a historical society or whatever, but,
Mhm.
maybe a garden club, they have photography, they have, I don't know, flower designing. I don't know, like, is it limited to all these? It has to be within, like, you have to join a historical society to be in a,
Do you
I mean,
want
I'm not Irish,
Karen,
so
why don't
I
you
can't
explain
put down
that
the
part?
gack.
Karen, why don't you take a minute to explain those 6, because that was new language for me too.
Yeah.
You want to just talk about that and what your thoughts were?
Sure. So when a cultural district is designated, there has to be a cultural district commission, and theoretically DECD has to approve the number and the members. And they require at least these 6 things in this language. This is the language. So they want
This is their
representatives.
language.
Yeah, and it's not meant to be limiting, like an artist, I'm sure they don't mean to limit what an artist is. They'll take, I think it'll be pretty flexible, organizations, a local business or chamber of commerce, and then 3 more Fairfield residents or electors who might also be involved in the arts, who knows, but certainly they should have an interest in it. So that's the goal, is they're really trying to say, we need a commitment from these entities and these and artists in town to see that you're really going to make this work, because otherwise we're throwing money at you and supporting you, and we need to have people who are from like legit organizations.
So these are more examples than constructs, like right?
Well, I think they're specific. I mean, like, if we don't have a cultural council or an arts council beyond this commission, we just don't have it. But cultural organizations, we have several. We can find artists. So we have to try to actually accommodate what they're requesting here.
Well, wait, it says at least one of the following. So aren't we saying it has to have one from each of the following?
Yes, but I'm sure if we don't, I don't know if we have a cultural council or arts council in Fairfield. So if we don't have it, I'm sure we can talk to the DECD about it. But we are supposed to have.
Or is that where it would go to somebody who's not a Fairfield resident?
Right, that's true. Maybe Westport's Arts Council or something, because they do have one.
So we
Yeah.
did say you can be outside Fairfield. I'm sorry. I thought you have to be
Well,
Fairfield.
No,
This says these categories, some of them say like the artist has to live and or work in the district. So under their requirements, the artist could just work in Fairfield.
Okay, I see. We're under that one, right? But
Yeah,
the language earlier seems to supersede that by saying members have to be part of the a resident of town.
well, that's why I was saying
Yeah.
before, we would take that out, I think, and then the additional 3 members would be Fairfield electors. Because, for example, like if you got somebody from Fairfield Theater Company
Yeah.
as, you know, it could be that the chairman of the board lives in Westport, I don't know.
Yeah.
And we want, I guess the organization's a member then, but
Yeah, it seems like we should really just have, I mean, just my view is just keep this to all Fairfield. I understand the concept. I mean, getting someone who works at FTC, but you know, this is a town, you know,
FTC is
homegrown
a
brand.
business, like
Yeah.
an artist is like a designer or a photographer. They're not someone who runs the
painter, a
FTC.
painter,
A painter, you
not
know.
an art gallery owner.
Well, the
Yeah.
art gallery owner could be a businessman and not be an artist. I mean, obviously they're in the art world,
They have-
but
Creative business, right?
Yeah, but I don't think it
No, I-
necessarily has to be the
it just
artist
seems
itself.
narrow. The
think
definition
you're-
seems narrow.
I think just to address what Jeff's saying, I think that we could probably I think all of this could fit in Fairfield, maybe not the cultural council, but we could say 9 Fairfield electors, but like FTC isn't an elector, you know?
Mm.
Well, it says a representative from each.
Right.
For-profit creative business.
So wait, so Karen, is this language required? At one point you said this language was some part of this is required, right?
It is so if you're named a cultural district and this becomes the Cultural District Commission, which is the goal, the membership has to have, this is actually the language, that it has to include at least 1 representative from each of the following, and there's these 6.
And yeah, got you. And so does that language tell us we have to we have to open it to beyond the town borders, or is that part of what they're requiring us to do?
No, it doesn't say that.
Okay.
And actually, I was reading, I think Jim and I both read one artist who lives and works in the district opened it up, but I think we don't have to. I think we could say 9 Fairfield electors. But
This
then
is from the Connecticut website, Josh. It is, I'm looking at it now. It's specific language. I didn't know about it either.
But not the resident part. Like we can limit it to residents if we want to.
Right, we can make it more restrictive without running afoul of the requirements.
But if we do
couldn't-
restrict it, then we might not be able to fulfill all those categories. So we
Yeah.
know off the bat that we don't have a local cultural council or arts council. So at the
And
beginning
also-
of creating this, we'll know that we can't fulfill these categories.
So do we say, to the extent possible, Fairfield residents or something like that?
Yes, I think it's to the extent
Yeah.
possible. If we don't have a
That's a
cultural
good idea.
council, that doesn't mean we go outside Fairfield. It would miss the point. We just can't
Right.
fill that specification.
Yeah,
And I think we'll find an artist that lives in
Yeah.
the district. I mean, we've got hundreds of artists.
We could
the
also,
artist for sure, but I think like some of the history, I don't know where
Yeah.
they
Wait a
lived.
second. so
Yeah,
number one, a representative from a local cultural council or arts council could be a Fairfield resident who's a member of an arts council somewhere else.
true. Yep,
Yeah, but that's kind of like a needle in the haystack.
Yeah.
Right. And the sentence preceding it, the membership of the commission shall include at least 1 representative from each of the following. So you can't skip over any one of these categories to
Yeah.
right.
to create this commission.
And that comes from the
And there's
state
no-
language.
Yes, and there's no entity that's a Fairfield elector, so you can't say they all have to be electors because,
Yeah, maybe that's why.
but I think saying like, good faith effort should be made to make them a Fairfield, I guess, but
And I think, Karen, it's also as long as collectively there's no more than 4 from a political party, I guess, regardless of what town they come from or live in.
right.
So that's fine. These 6 are kind of strict. I like the concept.
They're very
It's
strict.
definitely makes a very powerful commission or council, but
Mhm.
it does limit it a little bit because it's not going to necessarily be easy to find these people.
I know, I
And
know.
photographers are artists and, you know,
Yes.
landscape
Artists, that's not a
designers
hard
are artists.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah,
Well, it doesn't define it, so maybe that means it's open to interpretation.
I think it probably is. I
I
would.
don't think when someone says artist, you know, there are different.
It could be a musician. I mean, it doesn't have to be you know, art,
Correct.
art.
Right.
Right.
Um,
Actor.
Someone who
It's
partakes
number
in the
one.
arts.
Yeah.
In the
It's
arts.
number one that's tough to fill, right? That's the one.
Yeah, probably. At least it says
But
local.
when did the former arts council
Two bugs me a lot too.
end?
I don't know, it was before I was here. When did the last Arts Council end? Jeff, you referred to it.
I don't remember. I know Mark Barnhart had given a date. I don't remember it. and I
Maybe we
guess
can use somebody from them, from that. It was an arts council.
Yeah.
So, sorry, go ahead, Laura.
I was just gonna say, maybe we can ask one of those people, like, I think Ryan Odenak, I think, ran it or something. Maybe
Hmm.
we'll ask her to be, you know,
Mhm.
someone from a local cultural arts
Yeah.
council.
All right, so can we
Yeah,
finish our
let's move
conversation
on,
about
yeah.
this? So
Yeah.
how are we leaving this? Are we saying we're keeping this language aside from
Can you-
changing residents? Are we
Well, I
keeping
think
the
if you
list?
change it to 9, you have to change it to 5
Yes, right.
members, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
9
so-
and 5 versus 7 and 4.
And Josh, again, what's the benefit of saying electors versus residents?
Well,
We have to
actually,
say electors.
I
You
think
have
the-
to say
Because
elect.
they have to be associated with a political party and you have to
Oh.
know
Well,
whether
that's
they're
the
Republican.
question. So the question is, are we limiting it to Fairfield residents or not? And I think the answer is
Oh, Fairfield
saying
residents.
to the extent possible
Mhm.
to choose Fairfield electors, right?
Yes.
So in other words,
Yeah.
where possible, we want them to choose someone who lives in Fairfield and is registered to vote.
To vote. Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
Right.
But we're not saying it has to be that because we do see that there might be some challenges, at least with one or two of these lines, right? Is
Yeah,
that
there's
where we're
some
at?
conflicting language, but yeah, you're right. Yep.
All right, so are we all good with that?
Yes.
Hearing nobody. All right, let's move
I'm
on.
on this. Yes, sounds good to
Did
me.
you have anything else about this section that you wanted to raise?
I think we should delete the Board of Selectmen shall appoint the initial members in November because this will probably be approved in October. And I don't know how we'll find all these members in 1 month. So I think maybe we delete that and leave it to the Board of Selectmen to appoint them.
That affects the next couple sentences too, right?
Yeah.
So how do you do that without setting a date?
I guess 3 shall serve for 1 year. 2 shall serve for 2 years and 2, well, it'll be 3, 3, and 3.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay.
And then as far as the initial date, what do you want to say? Do you want to just push it out or do you want to just say as feasible or what do you want to say?
Maybe as something like as soon as possible or, encourage it to happen soon, but I don't know what the right language would be.
Yeah.
Once the ordinance is approved, or upon approval,
Mm-hmm.
upon approval of ordinance, Board of Selectmen shall appoint initial members, blah, blah, blah.
But
Yeah.
so that implies that we're not saying it's going to be the moment we do that, right? That implies it's going to take time to do it, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think it implies as soon as we can with those boards and their meeting schedules and all that through the normal course of business.
Yep.
No.
Okay. That works for me. Anything else on that section?
No, not for me. Anybody else? I don't know.
No.
So then if you go to duties and responsibilities, these are just a couple of kind of fix-its. Mark's title in A is Director of Community and Economic Development, so I would change that. And then in B, there's a reference to DRSO, and that is a Designated Regional Service Organization, which is I never knew about till now, so I would spell that out. And then in the last section, Jill pointed out there's an and between shall and present, so that needs to come out. So Josh, I'm wondering, and other people may have comments, but I'm wondering if I could try to make these changes while we're talking about Jill's thing, and then presented to everybody? Would
Well,
that be?
Yeah, but also as part of this process that we're just going through and in general and kind of running through it, you started to kind of walk us through it, not only for changes, but in terms of
Yeah.
informing the
Yeah.
committee.
We should
Right,
go through
right.
A, B, C, and
Yeah,
A through G or whatever it is, real quick.
yeah, okay. So A is that the commission is going to work to establish a cultural district, and they have they're working with the first selectman, the board of selectmen, RTM, et cetera, and also with the help of the Department of Economic Development in town. Because really that's what this becomes, is a way to develop, promote our town. B is that if it's successfully designated a cultural district, the commission will be empowered to exercise, this is language right from the state website, to exercise any power to consult and collaborate with the Office of Arts, Tourism, and the DRSO, which I'll spell out, which is another arts-related entity at the state level, to connect with local arts and culture, asset mapping, like mapping where all the cultural entities are in town, directing resources, asking for money, et cetera. And the website also says that promotions through them will have the branding of the Connecticut Tourism Department and stuff like that. C, if the commission's
Karen,
efforts.
can you just back up just so we can comment on B, and then we can just go
Sure.
bit by bit, probably be a little easier.
Yep.
My only question to you is on B, I know Baldwin, and I just looked at his comments today. Why did he say shall be responsible for managing the district? And that was changed to shall be empowered to exercise any power and perform any duties.
Because that's the language on the website, and it's the same. It's meant to be like he shortened that into managing the district.
Okay.
So I just used that language.
Okay. So that was just, was there a reason he changed it? Did he not?
I don't know, but he has seen this change. I sent him
Okay.
this change.
He has.
And
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
he has seen this whole version we're
This whole
looking
document he's seen.
at. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Then I'm looking at old comments from him. Okay. Okay.
Okay, C, if it doesn't become a cultural district, if that fails, then the commission will just generally encourage the arts and promote the arts and create an arts policy for the town, subject to approval, can make recommendations for art-related matters, and could recommend maybe the creation of an arts district. So it wouldn't be the cultural district that's official under DECD, but it still could be something that the town advertises. But hopefully, I think if this is done right, we should be able to get a cultural district.
Yeah. Karen, was there anything, any specific designation between cultural district or cultural arts and then arts district?
Yeah, so cultural district is the DECD statute term. So if it's designated a cultural district, capital CD, then we get all these bonuses.
Okay.
But if we don't succeed with that, then this would continue to be just an arts commission.
Okay. Or do you mean arts district or arts commission here?
It would be an arts commission, but they would, I hope they would recommend an arts district. That's one of the tasks at the end. So
Karen,
Sorry.
do you know if the last arts, was it just a commission?
I wasn't here. I don't know.
We don't know. We have no idea. Okay.
I forget what Mark said, but if we have to do an arts district, does that follow a procedure as well?
No, not that I know of. There's no statute I know of for that.
Okay.
So I think that would be, you put, there is actually a sign when I get off 95.
Yeah, I know. There is. Yeah. Yeah.
So, but I don't know how official that is. Maybe that's from the old Arts Council.
Probably.
But this would, I think it would then act like whatever that old Arts Council did, just trying to encourage and promote all kinds of things. And I just want to go back up. So this also provides that the Director of Parks and Rec and Economic Development would both be ex officio members. And the thinking for that is that Parks and Rec would probably promote and house some of these activities, right? You'd have maybe concerts in the park and things like that. and then economic development, because this would be good for the town, so. And then D is just a general thing that Jim said, maybe even redundant, but I think I leave it in just because what the heck. And then E, this asks the commission to present an annual report to the Board of Selectmen and the RTM and any other board or commission that requests it.
So in the end, we want to form a Fairfield Arts Commission in order to take the next step of creating a cultural arts district. If that cultural arts district doesn't get formed, it would likely not be because the state says no, but more because of opposition or obstacles or barriers here in town. Hopefully not politically, because that would be silly. But if there are
Right.
other reasons
Like what?
to prevent us from having it, then we would resort to being an arts commission that could then create an arts district. And if not an arts district, it would at least act as a Fairfield Arts Commission and do great things to promote the arts and still have some functionality and purpose and all that.
Exactly.
Get the money.
Well,
Well,
the money
I
only
don't
have,
Thing,
You
to get
get
the
the
money,
money.
Money only comes with a district and not just
Yeah,
the commission.
that's where the money comes
Art.
from.
cultural district, yeah.
there might be grants you can still apply for as an arts
Possible.
commission.
So Karen, you have to form the council first, the small
You
thing
don't have
first,
to.
and then
you don't
apply?
have to.
huh?
Pardon? Say
Then
that.
form the smaller version first and then apply?
The commission and then the district, Laura.
You
Yeah.
don't have to apply, you don't have to form the commission before you apply, but my thinking is the commission will be the engine that gets the application going, because otherwise who's doing it, so that would be their goal, is
Yeah.
to get it moving.
Yeah. Do we see any, I mean, just looking ahead, and I asked Mark this question too, anything that would prevent this cultural arts district from coming into place? And Mark kind of muttered something like, there's always a group that's going to pose something. And
Mm.
I wonder what really could stand in the way of this.
Yeah,
I don't understand.
I
Only
don't know.
NIMBY, not in
Who?
my backyard.
What's that?
I can't,
I'm just
yeah, I
laughing,
don't know
I'm just
who
joking.
would be in the way of, other than you maybe find the people, that might be one of the,
Yeah, that's on us.
that would be the obstacle in my mind, right? The hardest thing.
We're
And who
already-
actually-
I mean, I
yeah.
guess
Who
if you
takes
have
charge, does the application?
pardon?
Who takes charge and does the actual process of applying?
Well, it would be this commission, but with
Chairperson?
Mark Barnhart's help. I mean, the whole group would do it, but I think
Okay.
you'd have to have like staff helping.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
there has to be some kind of approval from Brenda. There has to be, the RTM has to approve it. There's a lot of,
That part,
official
I
stuff.
understand. I'm just saying the actual process of taking this and
I
doing
think
it.
Mark
They
Barnhart
apply.
would guide that.
So Mark would help. Okay.
All right, so can we move on? Are we good? Anybody else have any comments on this, or did you want to share any significant edits that you want to make, Karen, or do you want to do that at the end of this meeting, or what do you want to do?
Could I do it? Could I mark it up before we vote?
Yeah,
They're
totally.
just things we talked about.
Yep.
I can't vote. Right.
Yep.
Thank
Okay.
you.
So anything else before we're going to come back to see red lines? Is there anything else on this item, or should we move to our second and final item of the night?
Move to the second and final item.
Okay. So I think I have to stop share. Sure if I do, I don't. Okay. So this is our crumb rubber ordinance. I want to make sure I have the right version that I'm opening up here. Are people
Such an
seeing?
exciting name. From rubber.
Are people seeing the new document that I shared?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. We see the crumb.
All right. So I think, Jill, do you want to lead us through this conversation?
Okay, sure. And I apologize in advance. I have a really gnarly cold or virus, and so my voice is really weird, and I might start coughing and hacking in the middle.
Oh.
I'll try to get through this. So the whole purpose of this ordinance was to codify the consensus we reached as an RTM with the resolution that we passed in May on the artificial turf field for RLMS. And it presented a really kind of golden opportunity that we, with such a, it was a tense issue with a lot of varying perspectives and opinions. But we were able to reach a consensus about a baseline of the type of materials that we wanted to use for our infill. And it brought together a broad variety of groups.
Right, Laura, could you
Oh, I
mute?
hear a,
Laura, could you mute, please? Thank you. Go ahead, Jill.
okay, sure. And so we all agreed, and I think that the vote was all the RTM members except for one, and actually that one RTM member, Representative Gale, is joining with this ordinance. So it's just a great opportunity to come together on this and make it bipartisan, this issue, and just set a baseline for our town for this substance that we are concerned about. So I'll walk you through the ordinance. I used Westport's ordinance as the framework for it. They had structured theirs as a kind of like big paragraph, and it didn't separate out any subparagraphs. So Jim, I think the way that he restructured it is great. And I substantively, it's the same as what I had proposed, but I think that his subparagraphs are perfect and very simple. So the purpose is to protect the health, safety, and general welfare of Fairfield's residents, ecosystems, and natural resources. It's a very narrow restriction. Rather than opening it up to all synthetics like Westport, but they actually don't. They enable their Park and Rec and BOE to use synthetics. It's very confusing there. So I just wanted to make sure that we didn't have any kind of broad loophole. So we're doing just for rubber and fill material, which we're defining as recycled or virgin rubber products, including but not limited to ambient and cryogenic crumb rubber, coated crumb rubber, encapsulated crumb rubber, ethylene propylene diene monomer, the EPDM, and recycled footwear. So this will enable us to use, there are a lot of other substances in fills that we can be using, which include organics, coconut husks, all sorts of things, and also the ones that we considered for our resolution just recently, which was the EnviroFill and TPE. So 44.3 would be, it prohibits the use of rubber and fill material going forward. So this is for any installation or a complete replacement of our playing fields. It doesn't, and the next subsection highlights that this restriction doesn't apply to pre-existing fields. It enables, we're carving out an exception for the Board of Ed and Park and Rec to use its judgment and determine whether it's necessary to use rubber material, rubber infill on pre-existing fields, because we're not really sure whether it's appropriate or it's allowed to mix these infills. So we just wanted to enable them to continue, if necessary, to continue to using the prohibited material, the rubber infill on the pre-existing fields. And that's something that Westport does as well. And I selected the effective date as November 1st, 2022, because I thought that we would be finished by then. And that's
Okay, thank you, Jill. So do you
Sure.
want to?
Oh, and I want to make one note, sorry.
Go ahead.
This has nothing to do, it doesn't affect the substance of it at all, but it's just where we're putting it in the town code. So like you saw on the Arts Council one, the Arts Council didn't even have a chapter suggested. But I've talked to Jim about this. I had originally wanted it to be in the town code is organized with a part 1 administrative legislation, and part 2 is general legislation. I had originally put it under part 1, and Jim moved it to part 2. but we talked about it and it just makes more sense to have it in part one, because part one is about exclusively town issues, town lands, and part two has more to do with residents and all sorts of businesses. It could pertain to a lot of different things. So we're trying to limit this only to apply to town land. So we agreed it should be in part one. That means that we're going to put it in chapter 35, which is real property management. And it's really great. It works out really well because it fits in very nicely with everything that's already under real property management. It would be chapter 35, section 13. And all of these subsections would be A, B, C, D, E. And if we were to go ahead and codify the other part of the resolution that related to dark skies, putting it in this chapter makes it very easy to do that. And I told Jim that I was interested in doing that, and I think it makes a lot of sense where we've decided to place it in the code.
Thank you. So do we want to go through it and just go one piece at a time? And if anyone has any questions or comments or proposed changes, like this in the purpose section, I have a question. Do we only care about the health, safety, and general welfare of Fairfield residents, or do we actually care about the broader environment beyond our borders?
I mean, we do, but we can't regulate anybody else's.
No, we're not. I'm not. And this is not really a substantive change, but I think we're enacting the ordinance in Fairfield, but we're protecting the environment beyond our borders. I would consider
And the kids that come from other towns to play against our
Well,
kids.
that's
on these fields.
right, Drew. What about enact the general welfare of, players and attendees or something like that? I mean,
well, but it's also downstream river, like Long Island Sound, for example, was being protected by this as well.
Could we just say the community?
Oh, is that John?
Community.
Community. Just keep it broad to like the community.
welfare of the community, ecosystems, and natural resources. Yeah, that sounds good. Just because it encompasses everything, then. I mean, I see what your points are.
I think that's fine. And this is not a substantive thing, but
I mean, a lot of the complaints are the players themselves are going to get sick, or the parents watching, or the people downstream. So then we'll cover everything.
yep,
You know?
that works for me.
That
The
works.
local, you could say the local community, general welfare of the local community, ecosystems, and natural resources. Or
General welfare of the
When you
local
say local, what
Community
happens?
at large.
I'm getting a lot of echoes here. So can everyone try to mute when you're not talking, please? Thank you.
Community at large.
or general welfare of the people, ecosystems, and natural resources in our community. Something like that. I think we're all trying to say the same thing. We agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not a big deal. I just
Yeah. I that's a good point.
Maybe surrounding
Surrounding community.
all right. How about this?
surrounding communities.
How about this? To protect the health, safety, and general welfare of people, ecosystems, and natural resources.
Sure.
Okay.
I kind of like Jeff's suggestion in the end to say in our local community.
I don't. And
Oh, you don't.
nothing personal. I think it comes back to the same thing that I have an issue with is I don't want to define it as our community.
Okay.
I want to define it as the broader
The
area.
surrounding community.
Okay.
The local community.
I think that it's arguable, and I'm not making the argument, but it's arguable that the runoff from plastics would affect fish and wildlife
Okay,
miles from here.
that's fine.
And they're not our community per se.
Yeah.
Because community, you think people.
That's
Yeah.
fine. We'll leave
I
it.
would say
under general.
people,
Keep it general.
ecosystems, and natural resources, and leave it
Probably
at that.
better.
If everyone's fine with that,
People,
let's move on.
ecosystems and natural resources. Okay.
And if there's no objections, anything else on purpose? Anything on definitions? Anything on prohibition? Anything on exception to prohibition? Anything on effective date? Is this date too soon now, or
I don't think so, because
The LNA and then 2
we're gonna
meetings
get-
pulled over.
we'll get at least the September agenda.
Well,
And
we-
we've
do we
already
have a
been on
meeting
the
in August,
agenda
though?
in June.
I don't think we have a meeting in August, do we?
We don't have, well, we're not supposed to, but even if we don't, we'll have
September it's
September.
pulled over. October it would be voted on. I guess we could do it.
Can we just say effective as of ratification by the RTM?
Sure,
Okay.
sure.
I had
That's
a
better.
question that I don't think fits into any of these categories, so when
Okay.
it's my turn, you let me know.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So I remember in our discussion during the RTM meeting, there was a discussion of disposal, like if ever one of these fields has to be dug up. So I had asked Jill if we could put something in, and she said it's too late. But how to dispose of, I don't know, like I said, anywhere stipulation is the fields have ever to be removed, that the town takes on full financial responsibility for disposing of them in an appropriately environmental way that is off premises or out of town. I don't know,
So aren't they, isn't the town required to do that by law anyway?
because they're considered toxic.
Well, I think the town is required to dispose of its garbage in an appropriate way. Whatever the garbage is, it has to take appropriate action to dispose of it, right?
Okay,
So, I mean,
I just don't want it to be put in the dump, because.
we don't have a dump, do we?
Well, we have a transfer station.
Yeah.
I don't think that we would be
Is it
able
a
to put
field?
anything
Well,
like this in the dump, because it is considered toxic material.
Okay,
They have to be specially, and I'm worried about including that language because I know nothing about the solid waste aspect of it, and that's a whole different area of law. And I think that there's, state statutes related to it. And maybe it's
Okay.
something that we
if you
want.
think it's, I know there's a state statute that regulates toxic waste, like when you sweep the street, it's touched the asphalt, you have to dispose of it, in an environmentally, like as hazardous material. So if you think this is hazardous material,
Well, I guess what I'm saying is the rules about this are kind of beyond our wheelhouse, and I think the state
Okay.
would have rules, and the rules could change. We could write something here, and then in 5 years they decide this is what they want to do with this stuff, and it would, we would never know that we had to update this, right? So I think there's other groups that
regulation.
regulate that, in my opinion.
Okay, I just know that, town, we always get the pressure to save the money. And I just want to make sure that, we don't get, something like the Ludlow Field has to be ripped up. I don't want to have it like, oh, well, it can save 100,000 for putting it here versus there. So, but if you think that's covered by other ordinances or state statutes, then I'm willing. I just wanted to have the conversation.
Yeah, I don't know how we could go above and beyond what they have to do by state law. I don't know how to enforce that or how to write that personally.
Josh, I'm gonna unfortunately have to drop. I have one question though. Jim Baldwin's looked at this already? Or
Yes.
no, he has. Okay.
This is basically his
Final
draft.
approvers.
And I
Okay.
spoke to him this morning too,
Okay.
and we settled the whole thing with where to put it in the code.
I'm in support of this. If we are to add any other language, I think like Drew just suggested, which is changing codes or going beyond, I probably would abstain just until I get clarification, but I'm in favor of this and the other one. I do have to sign off. I'm sorry. But I like them both.
So are you basically casting
Thanks, Jeff.
a yay vote for both of them, assuming there's no major change between now and when we take that vote?
Yes. And on the other one, I think we had a memo we were putting forward, but Karen and I had talked about that earlier, and I don't think that was changed much, Karen, right? For the other ordinance.
Yeah, very little.
Yeah. So yeah, good.
Yeah, and I don't think the LNA is going to review the memo and edit that. That's,
Yeah. Okay. Not a worry. Okay.
All right. Thanks, Jeff.
Sorry, guys. Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks. Bye.
Okay.
I'm gonna drop. I have to leave, but I thank you for the opportunity to be a part of this, so I can just be
Thanks, Laura.
supportive of this ordinance, the farm rubber. Thank you, Jill. Thank you for inviting me. And thank you all for your work.
Bye, Laura.
Feel
All right.
better.
You too.
Drew, is there anything else? I'm getting a lot of echo here. Are you?
I just unmuted, but no, I'm good. I just wanted, I've discussed everything that I had questions about, so
And
thank
I
you.
didn't mean to shut you down at all. Are you satisfied that you're
Yeah.
happy with where
No,
we are?
I'm
Okay.
satisfied. Like you, I'm concerned if the disposal somehow, even if it's not a full disposal, that somehow it's gonna get locally disposed of.
I don't believe there's any disposal local in Fairfield. I don't believe there's a dump or any place for waste. I mean, there's a fill pile, but there's no waste disposal in Fairfield that I'm aware of.
Okay,
Correct me if I'm wrong.
well, the fill pile was all about, taking, street sweepings and,
Yeah.
That kind of
Not
thing.
this kind of stuff at all. Yep.
Well, it was all, stuff that we paid $500,000 a year to dispose of because it was considered toxic. So,
Right.
anyway, I just want,
Okay.
again, it's just a worry like you. I worry about the downstream. I worry about,
Yep.
forever chemicals. I worry about, and the tight budget, which is now that I can say this now that Jeff is gone, but
We are recorded, just for FYI.
oh, okay. But when you put pressure financially on on a town project, then sometimes you cut corners. So I don't want corners cut in regards to disposal.
Yeah, I'm not sure we can resolve that with this ordinance personally.
Okay. But thank you. I'm good.
Yeah. Thank you. Anybody else have anything? Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing this one, and I'm going to go back to the other one. Oh, that's the agenda. Sorry. Or wait, do you want to share, Karen?
My Word has been constantly crashing, so I'm still trying to get a red line for you.
Okay.
So, do you want to stick with Jill's for now, or I mean to
Oh
vote?
yeah, we could take a vote on Jill's. Thank you. Right, we have to vote.
Okay.
So, and I'm sorry, Tom, I totally skipped the start of the meeting business there. I was stressed out about having trouble logging us in here, but I'm sure you figured out who's on the meeting and all that without my help.
I took a silent roll call,
Yes,
but
thank
I
you.
could see who was present by
Yes.
who was appearing on the screen.
Perfect. It's amazing. That was well done. I'm impressed. All right. So we're going to take a vote on this one, the crumb rubber one, on moving this on to the full RTM. Can I have a motion for that?
I'll make a motion.
And thank you, Jill. Could I have a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Tom. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, I think we can count Jeff as an aye, unless anyone disagrees with that. Okay. What do you think, Karen? How's it going?
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No worries. I mean,
crashing.
is there anything significant that you're changing that is not just like typos or that kind of stuff?
No, just the things we talked about. The only significant change. Actually, you can, if you can let me do it, I'm
Yeah,
done
let me
now.
see what I can do here. This is stop sharing. Okay, can you share? I stopped sharing.
Yeah, let's see. Figure out where I'll share. Okay. I think this will do it. You see that?
Yep. Well, it's
Okay.
coming up.
Okay.
Yep. But can you make it a little bigger for us?
Yeah, how do I do it?
Oh,
Just-
actually, we can do it ourselves. Never mind. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I changed it to 9. The Fairfield Art Commission shall consist of 9 members appointed by the Board of Selectmen, no more than 5 members of the same party. Last sentence here, the members of the commission shall include Fairfield electors to the extent possible, and at least 1 representative from each of these. The Board of Selectmen shall appoint the initial members of the commission upon enactment of this ordinance. Of the members first appointed, 3 shall serve for 1 year, 3 shall serve for 2 years, and 3 shall serve for 3 years. On the other page, I hadn't mentioned this before, but this said the commission shall hold at least 10 regular stated meetings, and I don't know what that means, so I just changed it to scheduled. I added community and economic development for Mark's title. And then I did this DRSO, Designated Regional Service Organization. And finally, I took out the "and" here.
Great.
I think stated versus scheduled is just how far in advance you have to do it. So I think stated is fine, like as long as they announce, like a stated meeting is an announced meeting versus a scheduled meeting, which means that you have to have it on maybe 30 days prior or something.
Oh, okay. Does anyone
would-
have any feeling
If,
either way?
if Baldwin lets stated go, I would leave it as stated.
Okay. So I'll change that back.
Okay, so anyone have any other suggestions about these red lines?
Erin, can you make the first page bigger?
Yeah, hang on a second.
I think you can control it, Jill, with your own.
Oh,
Yeah,
There's
I'm
a
not
little
sure.
plus and minus sign, and you can kind of scroll as well.
okay.
I don't know why it's showing 2 on a page. Oh, there we go.
Nope. I'm good.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Can I have a motion, please?
I move to approve the ordinance as revised.
Thank you. And I see Tom as a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, I feel like Jeff is an aye as well, and I don't think there's anything here that he didn't see or talk about.
Mhm.
Okay, any other comments or business? Thank you all for making time in August. Thank you, sponsors, for making this happen. Really appreciate your work here on both these. And have a good rest of the summer, everybody.